Hey everyone, today we are going to talk about a mental hospital built in the middle of the ocean where the world's most troubled patients are treated. Two detectives come here to investigate, but after arriving, they uncover a truth that makes it not only difficult but impossible to escape. The movie is called Shutter Island and came out in 2010. At the beginning, we meet the main character, Teddy Daniels, as he and his partner Chuck sail to Shutter Island. It is home to a mental hospital where a patient escaped 24 hours ago. Their job is to figure out how the patient managed to escape such a high security place. We learn that this is Teddy and Chuck's first time meeting, teaming up for this case. Chuck asks Teddy about his family, and Teddy says he is married but lost his wife and four others in a fire 2 years ago. He has been alone ever since. After reaching the hospital, Teddy and Chuck realize there is only one way, in or out, a port controlled by the hospital. They meet the warden, who explains that the patients are mentally unstable, which is why security is so tight. The warden takes their guns before they enter and tells them about the three wards. Ward A for male patients, Ward B for female patients, and Ward C for the most dangerous and violent patients. No one can go to Ward C without the warden's or the head doctor's permission. They meet Dr. Cawley, the head doctor, who tells them about a patient named Rachel who escaped the day before. Teddy asks if she is dangerous, and the doctor says yes. Rachel's husband died in World War II and she has been mentally ill ever since. One day, he killed his three children by drowning them in a pond behind their house. As punishment, Rachel had been undergoing treatment for the past 2 years. But the problem was that she couldn't accept that her children were gone. She had created her own imaginary world where the hospital was her home and the entire staff were her servants, milkman and paperboy. After this, Teddy and Chuck went to Rachel's room to investigate. They saw that the windows and doors were so strong it was impossible to escape. Even Rachel's two pairs of sandals were still in the room, meaning she had left barefoot. Then Teddy noticed a piece of paper with the words "The Law of Four, who is 67" written on it. No one in the hospital understood it. Teddy kept the paper and told Dr. Cawley he wanted to talk to everyone who was on duty the previous day. The next day, Teddy learned that one staff member had gone to the bathroom for a while. Maybe Rachel had used that chance to run away. Teddy also found out Rachel was a patient of Dr. Sheehan, who had left the morning after taking a few days off. That night, Teddy and Chuck went with Dr. Cawley to his quarters. There they met Dr. Nering, a German who had recently moved to America. Teddy didn't like German at all because he and his friends had fought against them in World War II. This led to an argument between Teddy and Dr. Nering. When Teddy asked to check the hospital records, Dr. Nering refused. Angry, Teddy said he would stop the investigation and leave with Chuck in the morning, and I will make a report about this hospital of my own free will and submit it to my headquarters. Afterward, back in his room, Chuck asked Teddy, "Will we really get out of here tomorrow morning? Because I have never left any work unfinished like this before." Without answering, Teddy says, "I don't think Rachel would have run away alone. Someone must have helped her escape from here." That night, Teddy sees his wife in his dream. Actually, since coming here, after seeing so many mental patients around him, he has also started having strange hallucinations. Sometimes he gets lost in his memories from World War II, so sometimes in the memories of his dead wife's toll race. In his dreams, his wife tells him that Rachel hasn't run away from this island alone. There is another man with her named Andrew Ladis. Somehow, you have to find them both and get them out of here. And that moment, his eyes open. He sees that it's raining heavily outside. That's why, even if he wants to, he can't go out of here and he is forced to continue his investigation. Now, both of them together interrogate all the patients of this hospital. During his interrogation, Teddy asked everyone about a man named Andrew Ladis. But no one there knows a man with that name. Chuck asked him, "Are you asking everyone about Ladis? Do you already know him?" Teddy says, "Where my wife and I used to live, Ladis used to work there. He loved playing with fire. One day, he set out entire building on fire. Because of that, my wife was killed. But when he was brought to court, he said that he had a worm in his head. This insect repeatedly tells him to do this kind of thing. After that, he was brought to this hospital for treatment. But after a few days of being here, Ladis vanished without a trace. It's like he never exists. After arriving, I searched wards A and B thoroughly. I couldn't find Ladis anywhere. This means he is either in ward C or he is been killed." Chuck asks, "If the guys find him, will you kill him?" Teddy replies, "I don't come here to kill him. I saw countless people die with my own eyes during World War II. That's why I don't want to kill anyone else now," he explains. Chuck says, "If I were in your shoes, I did kill him. And if you don't want to kill him, why are you here?" Teddy answers, "After Ladis disappeared, I researched this Iceland. I learned they conduct different kinds of experiments on all the patients here. They operate on their brains to make them violent. Then they use these patients to fight wars with other countries." But Chuck doesn't believe him. Teddy continues, "While researching this hospital, I met a guy named George Noyes. He used to be a patient here. George was once a bright student, but a car accident made him see ghosts. One day, he attacked his professor. They brought him to this hospital for treatment. He left after a year and immediately murdered 3 people at a restaurant. In court, he begged them to take his life, but not send him back to the hospital. They ignored him and sent him back here. Now he is in terrible shape in Ward C. That's how I found out about the experiments on patients. It's easy to experiment on mentally challenged people because no one will believe them." During this conversation, Teddy and Chuck were walking outside the hospital. A sudden downpour soaked them both. Since their clothes were wet, they had to wear hospital staff uniforms. That same evening, Dr. Coley and the other doctors were discussing how to move all the patients to a safe place if the hospital flooded. From their conversation, Teddy learned there are 24 patients in Ward C and a total 42 in Wards A and B. That adds up to 66 patients total. Teddy told Dr. Coley, "According to your numbers, there are 66 patients, but the piece of paper in Rachel's room said, 'Who is 67?' That means there are 67 patients, not 66. Dr. Coley didn't respond to Teddy but said, "We found Rachel and now she is in her room." Hearing this, Teddy and Chuck quickly found Rachel and questioned her about where she had been for the last 2 days. But without answering their questions, Rachel hugged Teddy, thinking he was her husband. And the next moment she said, "My husband already killed me, so who are you?" This incident reminded Teddy of his wife. His health started declining rapidly. Dr. Cowley quickly gave him medicine that put Teddy to sleep. While sleeping, he had strange dreams. First, he saw many dead bodies laying around after the end of World War II. He also saw Ladis and Rachel in his dreams. After talking to them for a long time, he saw his wife Dolores. Dolores told him that Ladis was still alive and on the island. She said, "You have to find him and kill him no matter what. Because of him, I had to kill myself too." Teddy's eyes opened wide after hearing this. The next morning, when he went outside with Chuck, they saw a strong storm had knocked down trees and scattered the patients. The hospital staff was busy taking the patients back to their rooms. Taking advantage of the situation, they went to Ward C. They separated to look for Ladis. After a while, Teddy saw George Noyes, the same man who had told Teddy about the Iceland 2 years ago. George's face was worried. Teddy asked who had done it. George said, "You did? You beat me up." Teddy said, "Don't worry, I will get out of here." But George replied, "You can never do that. You think you are here for an investigation? He knows everything and he is watching you. You are stuck here." Teddy didn't believe him. George continued, "Have you ever worked with the partner you came here with before?" This is a trap. In a few days, these people are going to take me to a lighthouse on this island and perform brain surgery on me. Then I will be killed. Finding the truth here and killing the ladies, you can't do both at once. You have to choose between the two. And yeah, you have to forget your wife Dolores too. We see that Teddy sees his wife everywhere, even when talking to George. He sees his wife standing behind him. Teddy tells George, I can't forget my wife at all. George says, then you can never leave this island. And yeah, the one you are looking for, ladies, isn't here. That means he is been taken to the lighthouse for surgery. After a while, we see Teddy and Chuck leaving from there and heading towards the lighthouse through the forest. On the way, Chuck says he is been seeing the files of all the patients there. He's got Laddie's file there too, which means Laddie's is still on this island, and this file is proof that there are 67 patients here, not 66. After going a little further, Chuck refuses to go on because the road is a bit dangerous. That's why Teddy goes on alone, and soon he realizes he is not on the right path because there is a deep abyss in front of him. That's why he comes back, but on the way back, he can't find Chuck anywhere. After looking around a bit, he sees Chuck's body laying in the ditch. That's why he carefully climbs down into the ditch. But when he gets down, Chuck isn't there. He sees that what he thought was Chuck is actually a stone, but from there he sees a fire burning inside a cave. Now he somehow reaches that cave where he finds a woman. When Teddy asks, she says her name is Rachel. But this isn't the Rachel he met at the hospital a few days ago. This woman says she is the real Rachel. She was once a doctor at this hospital, but when she learned the truth about the experiments on patients here, she opposed it. Then the hospital doctors tried to drive her crazy by operating on her brain. Since then, she has been hiding in different places on this island to save her life. Actually, these people don't want the news to get out from here. Rachel goes on to state that all of these operations are done in the same lighthouse, and because you now know the whole truth, they won't let you live here either. They will somehow try to prove you are crazy and stop you right there. After that, she asked Teddy if he drank any medicine, smoked any cigarette, or drank any coffee that he gave him. Teddy says yes. Rachel says you shouldn't have eaten any of it because they mixed medicine in it. After taking it, you will get a bad headache and your hands and legs will start shaking. Then Teddy notices that his hands were actually shaking at that moment. After spending the night there, Teddy goes back to the hospital the next day. When he returns, Dr. Coley tells him that the work he came here for is finished. He can leave now. Teddy says yes, his investigation is complete and now he wants to get out of there. Has he seen his partner Chuck anywhere? Then Dr. Coley asks him, what do you mean? You came here alone? Hearing this, Teddy thinks it means they caught Chuck and now he will also be taken to that lighthouse and operated on. That's why he secretly goes to the lighthouse, and after killing the security guard there, he goes inside the lighthouse. But when he gets there, he is surprised because the place is completely empty and Dr. Coley is sitting on the topmost floor of that lighthouse. But in all that light, he can't see the Chuck anywhere. Teddy doesn't understand what's happening because according to the investigation, all the patients are undergo brain surgery and his partner Chuck also wanted this meeting. Dr. Coley asked Teddy to sit in a chair in front of him. Teddy's hands are shaking. He says he found the real Rachel. He told him everything about the brain operation. Besides, he also found out how you people have been trying to drive him crazy by giving him medicine for the past few days. Dr. Coley says no, he is wrong. He has been given this medicine not for the past few days, but for the past 2 years. And he hasn't been taking this medicine for the past several days. That's why his hands are shaking. Teddy says, well, for the last 2 years, someone has been mixing medicine in his food and he doesn't even know about it. The doctor says, no, not at all. In fact, he has been a patient in this hospital for the last 2 years and his treatment is ongoing here. Teddy says, you still think I will believe in this stuff? I am a detective. Doctor says, yes, you were a detective 2 years ago, but for the last 2 years, you are the 67th patient here. The doctor shows him a paper filled out when Teddy was admitted to the hospital. But even after seeing it, Teddy doesn't believe what the doctor says. He's just asking the doctor where his partner Chuck is. The doctor says, okay, then I understand you differently. The doctor shows him a board and says this is his rule of 4. There are 4 names written on the board: Edward Daniels, Andrew Ladis, Rachel Cholando, and Dolores Channel. The doctor tells him that 2 of these names are exist, and he created 2 more fake names. He created Edward Daniels from Andrew Ladis and Rachel Cholando from Dolores Channel. His real name is Andrew Ladis and his wife's name is Dolores Channel. 2 years ago, he committed a crime, which is why he was brought here to be punished. But he is not confessing his crime, so he has created a separate imaginary world of himself where he is a good person, a detective who came here to investigate one of his cases. Here, he changed his lady's name to Edward Daniels. If it were up to the doctor, he would never have taken him out of his imaginary world. But your mental health is not good at all right now. Sometimes you even attack the guards here. Sometimes you even kill the patients here. And 2 weeks ago, you fatally shot a patient named Organois. His only mistake was that he called you Andrew Ladis. That's your real name. But you can't tolerate that name at all. That time, you almost killed Jorge. He was somehow saved by your own hand. After that, we all decided that we would have to treat you somehow. Meanwhile, Teddy's partner Chuck arrives and stands right near Dr. Coley. Here we learn that Chuck's real name is Dr. Sihan and Chuck is Andrew's real doctor. For the last few days, he was hanging out with Andrew as his partner, just to keep an eye on him. Hearing all this, Andrew angrily picks up a gun laying on the table and starts shooting at Dr. Coley. We see that despite being shot, Dr. Coley is still alive. Then he realizes that it's a fake gun. Now both the doctor and Dr. Sheehan together remind Andrew of his past. He also sees pictures of his wife and 3 children. After seeing them within a short time, he starts remembering everything. In a flashback, we see that during World War II, Andrew suffered a mental breakdown after witnessing the deaths of countless people. To cope with these traumatic memories, he turned to heavy drinking. Andrew had a wife and 3 children at home. However, his wife had been struggling with mental illness for some time, consumed by alcohol. Andrew neglected his wife. Amidst their turmoil, his wife Dolores one day set their entire house on fire. As a result, Andrew, his wife, and their 3 children moved into a new home. There was a pond behind their new house. Unfortunately, Dolores' mental condition persisted. One day, while Teddy was out, Dolores drowned their 3 children in the pond behind the house. Upon returning home, Andrew found Dolores sitting near the pond, with the lifeless bodies of his children floating in the water. He frantically pulled his children from the pond, but it was too late. Overcome by grief and rage, Andrew killed Dolores with a gun. In an instant, his entire family was gone, leaving him utterly alone. To this day, he can't accept the fact that he killed his wife. That's why he gradually created his own imaginary world, where he had no children and his wife died in a fire in her building. The fire that was started by a man named Andrew Ladis. And after this incident, it seemed as if he hated his own name, that he changed his name to Edward Daniel. And when he was sent here from the court, he thought he had come to investigate the case of Rachel and Ladis. And the Rachel he found in the cave was also just his imagination. And the experiment on patients on this island was also his brainchild. Somehow he just wants to forget his past, but he is so lost in this world that it's becoming difficult for him to come back to the real world. Dr. Scully and Sihan also helped Andrew with this. Therefore, for the last few days, the entire hospital staff and doctors acted together in his imaginary world, and the Rachel he saw in the hospital was actually a nurse at the same hospital, and the piece of paper that Andrew had found from Rachel's room was also left there by Dr. Coley, because Dr. Coley wanted Andrew to know from his investigation that he was the 67th patient. Scene shifts to the present. We see that because of this doctor drama, Andrew has completely snapped out of his imaginary world. Now, Teddy confesses the whole truth in front of everyone. Dr. Coley tells him that 9 months ago they had cured him completely once before, but slowly he drifted back into his imaginary world. But this time they want him to accept the truth and come out of his imaginary world. The next morning, we see Andrew sitting on the stairs outside the same hospital. Dr. Sihan comes to him and asks, "So what should we do now?" Andrew tells him, "We have to get out of this island, Chuck. This is a lot of crime." Hearing this, Dr. Sheehan shook his head to some doctors standing away from him. This means that even after so many attempts, the doctors are still at square one. That's why the doctors are now considering brain surgery, because now this is the only way to keep Andrew calm so that he doesn't attack any other patients. At the same time, we see that a nurse is following Andrew with some of her staff. Andrew also stands up and moves towards the nurse, but while leaving he tells Dr. Sihan, "Sometimes I think about whether it's better to live like a bad person or forget everything and live like a good person." Dr. Sihan is little surprised by this. Dr. Sihan calls Andrew from behind, but he doesn't stop. It seems that Andrew has now made a full recovery. Still, he wants to have brain surgery so he can completely forget his dark past. And that's the end of this story. So friends, what do you think of this story? Let me know in the comments. Well, I really liked this movie. If you liked my explanation, please like and share the video. See you soon with another interesting story. Bye bye for now. Take care.